So I'm Peter Hussey from Crooked House Theatre Company and Kildare Youth Theatre, and we have a number of young people every year who are applying to go to third level drama colleges in Ireland and in the UK. Some of our young people have already been there and have graduated, and I'm delighted to welcome to have a chat with me today, Sarah McCormack, who graduated earlier last year in 2020 from the Bristol Old Vic Theatre Training School in Bristol in the UK. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Peter.
How are you?
I'm
And
well.
Sarah, of course, was in the youth theatre as well, was in our youth theatre. Um, from a very young age, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, 15, 16.
Doing a connections play.
Yeah.
Mm. And then that connections play led to another, and then one went on to the National Theatre in London as part of the Connections Festival. I think that was 2015 in a
Yeah.
play called Hospital Food. A beautiful monologue there was in that too about Reuben the dog, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Remember?
honestly, that does not feel like 5, 6 years ago. That
I
feels
know.
like yesterday. It was,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. And there's a great video of it on of you as well. Yeah, partly, walking along the streets. So tell us a little bit about what your experience was at Bristol Old Vic. Um, what kind of training was on there? Remember, a lot of our young people who are applying wouldn't really know, what's going to happen for 3 years. They just have an idea it might be a big drama workshop where they might learn how to act. But really, what happens in Bristol Old Vic? What happened for you anyway?
right. Um, well, Bristol Vic's unique in the sense that the first year of your 3-year training is all of your training, all the practical training. So that's where you'll have your stage combat, your, the proper in-depth, like getting ready for your touring second year in voice and movement. And I mean, that came, labbing and all those efforts came into it, but their ethos really is they cover and they show you kind of every method that there is under each department. And then they kind of give you the iceberg of it. And then it's up to you to say, oh, that fits my style. So then in the second year, you're putting that to practice. So that frustrated me a tiny bit because, I would focus on one thing because I did lend myself to it. Whereas I would have liked to have been a bit more pushed in, maybe, I don't know, Meisner, but because I kind of got irritated where I chose Laban because it was smoother and so, it's how Bristol Vic is, you are teaching yourself. There's kind of this underlying thing of you, as much as you learn, it's up to you. Do you get me? They're not kind of baby like feeding you or forcing it upon you. But yeah, so the second year you kind of feel and see and kind of feel through your progress of what your first year training was, how that is benefiting you. We do, I mean, so I don't want to go over first year too quick. There's so much in the year, and it's quite sad now with COVID. I think the first and second years are getting the biggest hit because all of it is in those 2 years. But there's so much, and there's, in terms of like the social aspect of it, it's a very small school. It was one of the last schools I had auditioned for. And I auditioned across like 10 across England, and that's Glasgow as well, and Ireland. But that was one of the last, and it felt the most warm. It was the smallest. There was only 14 of us. We do connect with the postgrads in the third year, which is really fun because by the 2 years you're sick to death of these 13 people. Like, you're sick of them. You can't even see their talent anymore. You're just like, get away. So, and everyone can say that, hands up. So by third year, when they get introduced, it's really fun. You're kind of then learning how to work with new people again because you've gotten used to this group of people. So on the professional side of it, the whole third year is so industry based because it's you're networking. You're these postgrads are a lot older than the BAs as well, so they
Yeah.
could be in their 30s. They could have credits to their name. You're kind of networking. You're kind of building a thing. Third year is great. There's agent meetings every term. It's then kind of, as the year progresses, it gets nearly every week there's one or two agents coming to the school. because Bristol's name is so, I know it's been floating about because Olivia Colman and the Oscar and Emma Corrin and I don't know, Erin
Josh.
Doherty, Josh O'Connor. Like it's just they've been really coming out this year. So the agents really came to us. We were really fortunate. They trucked to Bristol, which is hard for them to do because London schools, they'll just be there and you can guarantee that you're getting Curtis Brown in
Yeah.
third year. Whereas
Mm,
we didn't have that guarantee. So it was great buzz.
mm,
And in those auditions, it's just like the audition to get in. So
mm.
that's
In which auditions now?
the external agent auditions in third.
Oh, you auditioned for them.
Yeah, so they're coming to the
Mm.
school and you're giving them 2 monologues and you're having a little chit chat. There's no singing involved or anything like that. I mean, depending on
Right.
the agent, if they're a musical
Oh,
based agent.
so in other schools they do a showcase, like a play or whatever. Here with Bristol, you actually they get to see everyone and you do monologues and they talk to you.
Yeah, well, there's both. So in the
Mm,
third year, you do 3 shows in a theatre. We don't have a theatre in our space in Bristol Vic
mm,
itself, so we go to Bristol Vic in Bristol, which is a really cool experience because you feel really snazzy. You feel like you're at, you know, you're doing connections again. It's great,
mm.
and you're meeting people or whatever.
Yeah. In first year, that is very unusual that all of the training is compacted into 1 year, I think. So it must be hard, exactly as you say, to, get a certain amount of Meisner. Is it really just a taster or is it like fairly in depth?
What I would go back to saying it's as much as you want to learn because the teachers are there, they have
Yeah.
the knowledge, and they have the time. Like I said, it's a small school, so you're seeing these teachers on their break, like
Mm,
in the staff room when you're making the cup of tea. If you want to know more, delve in more,
mm.
if you want an hour with them, they're more than willing. It's kind of one of those
Oh,
ones that's at your own hands.
hmm,
But I also loved the ethos of Bristol because you didn't, like, we had moments, me and the girls, kind of, when are they going to crack us down and when are we going to cry? When
hmm,
are we going to do the whole, like, what's wrong with you and your mother? Like, you delve into it all. And that was never their thing. They just kind of wanted to give us the tools. And even if we wanted to pick up any of those was a
hmm,
choice. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can kind of say that I was just learning by doing the whole way
hmm,
through. Like I didn't choose a practitioner that I loved and stick with him or anything like that. I just was trying to absorb it all. And it was a little bit overwhelming because you don't
hmm,
have those like 2 months of Meisner. But
hmm,
you get 2 weeks, and if you want it to be an intense 2 weeks, it will be.
hmm. That's really interesting. So basically, then there's time set aside or whatever in the evenings or afternoons for you to contact one of the tutors and say, I'd like to do some more checkup or viewpoints or something like that. Can we meet in the studio and work away on it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I suppose the in the first year as well, you're doing all these text projects with
Okay.
external directors coming in.
Right.
Again, very early on, they're introducing you to the industry because these external directors that are working in the industry are
Mm,
giving you individual feedback. And you're getting this every term after a text project from someone from the industry. So you're learning, through your feedback, you're going to learn whether you need to focus more on one thing or the other because you're getting the feedback there and then off people that are
mm,
either going to handle you in the business or they're not. So
yeah.
it's kind of like you're busy, you're doing, I felt very in it that
Yeah.
that it wasn't a thing of I could sit down and practice labbing. It was kind of like I'm really struggling. Oh, labbing. Like it was just so like that kind of thing.
Mm. Super. And then in second year, you do touring productions, isn't that right? You get a chance to do exactly what you said there. Oh, I think maybe a lab and approach or a viewpoints approach would work well to help me develop this character. So I presume you devise or you rehearse several plays that year and tour them around England. Is that it?
So yeah, the second year is wonderful because you're touring for the whole thing,
Mm,
unless it's COVID. I'm not sure what's happening now, but we did a Nativity, which is a classic. They've been doing it since they've opened. It's not changing. I've tried to change it, but it's not changing. And it is great because you're performing to kids, which are apparently the hardest audience, and it's your first one out there pushed. And that was rehearsed for 6 weeks. Then we go like a proper kind of touring show would get that chance. So I mean, it was kind of, it depends on how that director, like the director for Nativity, he was an internal director for that. So he knew all of us. He kind of knew how we would work. He tried to challenge us and push us in different ways. So the rehearsal room was going, oh, remember Laban? Oh, try Meisner. So they were always trying to push, and that's where you'd kind of do your what works or what doesn't. But you'd only really find out when you're in front of the cats, and you kind of...
Super. And then did you do Shakespeare in the spring, or?
So then, sorry, Shakespeare is all covered in the first year as one of the text projects that you'll do.
Okay.
And it changes every year, the format of how they did it. I did it in a duologue form with another girl, which was so great because again, we had 4 weeks of Shakespeare in Bristol, Vic. I thought that was crazy. But at the same time, it was 4 so intense weeks because it was only me and this girl and this director, and you were going in for 3 hours, and then the next lot were coming in. So each director works differently of how many people are in the room, stuff like that. So like that depends on how intense the methods are and all of that.
Okay, so then you toured a few more plays in the spring around.
Yeah, so second year is Nativity, then you have a TIE tour,
Okay.
which is a educational show for kids. We did Rough Guide to Shakespeare, an hour-long show, and we toured it on then in the summer to Edinburgh, which is great, and you get the opportunity to do that through the school. So on your third tour of second year, it's a West Country tour, 6 weeks, much longer.
Another play.
And that you can, through the school, you can ask after the shows, you can fundraise to go to Edinburgh, and that's what we did.
And in those cases, you devised, so basically have you devised all the shows that you work with, this devised theatre?
Pretty much. Like ours was a unique situation, I think, because of our group. We were a very uncontrolled group because we were all so diverse. These were people who never saw themselves in a drama school. So I think themselves as a school, all the teachers, they were overwhelmed. They didn't know how. So all of the things had to be sort of devised, and through our kind of us coming out onto the stage, because they knew we can't tame them. They're not going to be tamed. We're excited by it. So let's not try and, make them these RP English, like traditional actors. Let's just see what they can give us. And they gave us that for a whole year, 3 projects, which was quite lucky. And we did give out that there were kids shows. At the same time, I think they were doing one on us because the kids were so hard. And it taught us that, it taught us some things that we couldn't be told, which is cool.
Absolutely. And then in third year, what did you do?
So third year, it's full of these agent meetings. Like I said, they're all coming to you, eyeing you up. There's a lot of emails back and forth. It's the first time where your emails are like really important and you're checking them every day. You can start to reach out to agents saying that you're in these projects coming up, these shows in these fancy theatres. They will come.
And what projects would they be that you're in third year?
So the projects we covered really great subject matters, in my opinion. In our year, we had Earthquakes in London by Mike Bartlett, which is a great show in terms of grabbing monologues from it, because it's an environmental piece. There's a great monologue from the guy that the young girl dates, and he has this great speech about the environment and stuff. I'd look it up.
He's a wonderful writer, Mike Bartlett, though. He's so exciting.
And quite speechy, everything's, so that's a great play to
So you actually do shows then?
So we do full-on shows, and well, Earthquakes in London is supposed to be a 4-hour show, so we cut it down to 2, which was quite hard, but
And they're staged in theatres, are they?
Staged in, yeah, professional theaters.
Right.
Agents are coming, like some nights it's like who's in the audience,
Yeah,
curtain,
yeah.
independent, it's a lot.
Okay,
I
okay.
kind of liked not to know, you know.
Yeah.
Then we did Laramie
Mm,
Project by,
mm,
yes, so that was a great subject matter. Again, it was the first time that I was working with a woman of color in the room
mm,
and talking about such a subject. It was so sensitive. We had men in the room that, you know, wouldn't utter the word gay.
yeah,
Like, it was really interesting because we all
yeah.
came from such different backgrounds and, you know, like
So
ourselves.
actually, that's exactly, that leads nicely into the next section, which is about the kind of young people who were the kind of students you think that Bristol Olympic have. You know, you're saying that I get the impression that you said that not a people were not theatre people necessarily. You were all kind of rough around the edges in some way or something, that you all had your own authenticity, and this was preserved. I mean, in terms of looks or physiques or style of person, what is a Bristol Olympic student, if you can say such a thing?
I think, thank God, it's like changing. And our year was the guinea pig year. I think the year below us, we could very much tell was the traditional old sense of what Bristol Vic, which is, you know, an RP standard man or woman, preferably white, you know, and so, and coming from a middle class to upper background. So I think they got the ick with themselves. I think they said, oh God, we need to change this up. Like, even just, you know, to make it seem like it's a place for all, because I think it started, drama school started to become a conversation of only so and so can do it, when it's just, it's not the truth. The help is there for you. The school has, I'm an Irish citizen, so in terms of loans and all that, the UK couldn't do much for me, but Ireland really helped me out. I got the full Susie loan, student loan. When I was in school and I was struggling, there was hardship funds. That was £1,500 per term that the school were just able to give me to feed myself, to budget. You know, there was food cupboards. You'd never go hungry. There was this great sense of that you were kind of taken care of. Uh,
Mm,
so that, to answer your question, the person
yeah.
of Vic I'd say would like to say is someone that can't be defined anymore, that doesn't look a certain way, that doesn't speak a certain way, doesn't even hold themselves a certain way. I think with me, I come from Kildare. I have notions, like they even had issues with me having notions, and like I think they struggled to tame me a little bit, but then in the end it was, oh sure, you'll get away with it, you're cheeky. I thought you said I'd never work, that I'm cheeky, that I never did. And so it's all this thing that they actually love these authentic people who are willing to sit on Graham Norton's couch and just be themselves, be able to cover up any mistakes they make, like authentically, and just be vulnerable and themselves. I
Sure.
think I
Sure.
it's very easy to point out in drama school the people who are there for maybe the the ease of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, so many people audition for it, so many people audition, and yet it's 14 or so young people in the room. And I guess the average age was about 18 or 19, was it?
No,
No.
it ranged in the BA group that I was in. It's getting young. It's 18 to 24 was the average age,
Yeah.
and then in the postgrads there was a 34
Yeah.
man. There was,
Yeah. The postgrad seems to be a place where older people can have a go for sure, and get in all the universities, I think.
you know, but now there's this whole, like they're bringing them all together, that there's no such thing as postgrad and BA. That it's a, so that's what our school has done. It's come together. So if you
Oh.
come to Bristol Vic now, your classmate could be 30 odd years old.
Oh. So basically, if you're doing an MA or if you're doing a BA, you might have the same classes, share the same classes, and do the same kind of training. Okay, okay. And but would you say that generally, you know, if you were looking at the acting schools, and Bristol Olympic might be no exception, that correct me if I'm wrong or not, because I want to know for the benefit of our young people. People would be fairly fit. People might be reasonably good looking. People would know how to hold themselves confidently. People would know how to offer opinions. People, to get into this group of 15 out of 6 or 7,000, I don't know how many audition, 4,000 maybe, I don't know. Surely there must be something that kind of you could say about them all.
I I don't think so. I think
No.
you're right in that, there's a certain type of professionalism that you have to, in your audition, you have to pursue because, they want to see you as if you're on Graham Norton's couch too. Or if you're in the director's room in 3 years' time, they need to know that you'd be able to handle yourself, which, but there's also a thing of that this is acting and this is us. It's, do you know what I mean? And I think, well, Bristol anyways, their whole ethos is you as if it's just, do you know what I mean? They're not trying to remove any kind of flaws or whatever that we have.
Yeah.
Just, be authentic about it and whatever. But
Yeah.
I do agree there is, and I did get in trouble quite a fair bit because of me posture, or because I'd say hi Carol to my voice teacher instead of Carol, like I wouldn't be professional when people wanted me to be professional. And it took a while for me to learn that it can be easier to just toe the line in certain areas. But in terms of the craft and your creative thing, to keep whatever you need to do to keep that going, do it, because you
Yeah.
have a connection with the teachers. They understand you. In the audition, it's another story. So yeah, boss up and, you know,
Yeah. So actually, since you moved on to that, like talk to me if you remember about your audition to get in there. What kind, and it might be different now, of course, but for our young people who will be watching this in time, they're preparing for auditions and they're thinking, no one has a notion about what a panel wants. Nobody can predict what the auditionees are to do. No one, they're torturing themselves, I think, wondering about, well, what does Rada want? What does Bristol or Vic want? But do you have a sense, having gone through it, what might be common amongst all 14 of you? Was there a sense of no one was fake or everyone was authentic? Or what did they all do at their auditions, do you think, that maybe got you in there?
yeah, exact. I think everyone in my class, anywho, were completely themselves, and you knew the piece they did to get in here. Like you knew how they acted. Like, how do I put this in a better way? I don't know. Look, in terms of trying to see what they want and what's hot this year and what's, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's, in my opinion, like, to get in, I did a really popular monologue from Dennis Kelly's DNA that was done so many times. Like, I didn't do anything new. I To be honest, it is down to luck, it is down to chance, it is down to who's on the panel that day. There's a lot of it is not in your control, like, at all. Like, they could have had a girl that came in with this hair and Irish, and that's my chance gone, because that's just the look of the straw. So it's about, being
Mm,
really, really sharp
mm.
with your deadlines. If you are auditioning, get in there quick so that that they have to judge you against the people that end up coming, not the other way around. Like, be clever about the statistics of it rather than saying, oh god, there's 4,000 people applying, it's not just go, no, be smart about it, shortcut it, like.
I think also, though I remember when we were working on DNA and on Portia from the Merchant of Venice, you were very good. Now, there is a standard that needs to be met as well. And I think what I mean by very good is that you displayed a huge amount of variety, of ease with the text, of being in the moment with it, of deep understanding of it, of speeding and pace, of all those kind of things that made both of them, especially Portia, so flexible that when they directed you or asked you to do it in a certain way, you were very well able to do that. So I think that that's important as well. It's, you have to reach that level first. you know, before you can think about getting in. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I
Have
think
to be good.
the build up to auditioning has to be like, it has to be, in my opinion, your year. Like, this is it. This is all I'm focusing on. Do you know what I mean? I'll eat later type of thing. Like, it has to be like that. So when it comes to learning your monologue, just be careful about having that approach and then flattening it because you've just overworked it. So just have in your head, these people are going to rework this for me. So I can't be emotionally attached to my baby. I have to
Yeah,
be able to give the baby in the room and play with these people.
that's right.
So, I got the head of acting in my audition. I got her on my seat and I played her as Desdemona when I was,
Mm,
and I was brushing her hair. And bless her, like, she was so uncomfortable, but I was saying, this is who are they're going to remember me dragging her off the chair and saying, please, will you just, it will help me. Like, so there's, and it, that had a lot to do with the way I asked as well. There's, you know, it's not just the monologue in that audition room. It's, you're selling yourself. It's 10 minutes to go in there and just go, this is who I am. This is what I am. Have it, like
yeah,
it. Monologue work. I think if you can get someone to bounce off your monologue with and to keep it going, obviously beat it, do everything you have to do. But make sure that it's flexible to move about in your head.
completely. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of surviving for the year, because a lot of our young people wouldn't have the wherewithal or the families to support them, the money or the families. You mentioned earlier there a little bit about financial support if you're struggling. Maybe take us through that again, be, just to, in case we just do a separate section on finance. How did you manage financially for the 3 years, living away from home? I know the fees are covered in the European Union grant through student finance, which you have to pay back eventually. But what about living costs, rent, and so
Um, I was quite lucky that I had my family to support me, and there were people in my class who weren't in that position and got by through either the school. There's scholarships in place that you can audition for when you get in. There's, like I said, there's hardship funds, and that's for any student of any background. Can get up to £1,500 per term, which is, that could cover your rent.
on?
That's, so um
What about jobs? Do people work?
it's hard to work, if I'm being honest, because of the how much you're in school. I mean, it's changed now. We were 9 to 6:30 for the
Mm,
first 2 years, and I think it's changed now till 9 to 4 or something, like much shorter, because I think the teachers, they all realized that the kids had to be able to earn a living or kind of have time to feed themselves type of thing. So
yeah,
um there is a little bit more time, I'd say, to actually do it, but in terms of your energy and your focus, it's really difficult. And I know it's a privilege to say that. So, there is easy jobs around the school. They can, my friend was painting the school in the summer for them. There's
mhm.
reception jobs that you can do for them. If you are struggling, Bristol Vic, anyways, all I can speak of, they will not let you go hungry or homeless,
Oh,
or without
okay.
counselling support. At least
Mm,
there's free
mm,
counselling. There's, honestly, and there's food cupboards. There's these food,
mm.
but what liable food, like pasta, like actual things you can take and feed yourself, milk, things that are costly and that you have to buy every week, but you
Mm.
don't have it. So
Super, super idea. Yeah, really, really good. And you're talking about counseling, which is also interesting. Do you on the course of the 3 years work out at all about rejection and how to deal with this from looking at parts and not getting them in the future, dealing with the ego that might be bruised or hurt by this and how to pick yourself up and move on.
yeah, it's a huge reality when you walk into Bristol Vic. That's what they push in your face, is the realities of being an actor. And I think the touring year really highlights that, the packing up at the van at 5 a.m., doing the load, like the set yourself, like coming home at 1 a.m., getting up again at 7, like, that is that. But by doing all the by doing the work in drama school and it surrounding you and being your whole life for 3 years, it's really hard to actually kind of bird's eye view it and say, like, I'm not going to be busy. Like, that's not that, what, like, no, I'm going to be busy. Like, obviously I'm busy now and I'm not even working. It's like the
Yeah.
realities that do try and push it on you, like, you need to find a hobby outside of this. You need to support yourself. There's side jobs that are going to have to be taken. Like, they're Bristol Vic anyways, they weren't dreamy. They were very realistic and that stuff. um
Right.
and with
Very good.
me and my classmates, in terms of rejection, because you get feedback every week pretty much since you're there for 3 years, um it's not rejection in a way, but it is a sort of do better. And because they are forcing this ethos of it's going to be hard when you get out, there
Mm.
is that. And with COVID, it's been a huge thing. Like, it's foreshadowing me in terms of, wow, work really isn't going to come right now. It's not even just a guessing, like, luck game. It's like it's a slim chance.
Yeah.
So with rejection, it's a lot easier because you're kind of like, you understand that the roles are going to bigger people. There's all this, just trying to remove it off myself, and the control that I actually do have is just in the room. A lot of the times it's based on how you look, and I'm really
Mm.
sad to say that, but like, it is,
Mm.
you know what I
Mm.
mean? If I have blue eyes and they need brown eyes, I can,
Mm.
so there's a lot of things that go into play that are so out of your control. So when it
Mm.
comes to rejection, I would just say, like, really try and find peace with being told no, and you're not right for this one, but being able
Good.
to tell yourself you're going to be right for another one.
One coming up. Excellent. And what's living in Bristol like compared to, say, London, where most colleges are? Bristol. What's living in Bristol like for 3 years?
I can't even, Peter. I would go back in a heartbeat if I could.
Really,
It's so
really.
well, it's it's London if London had some sort of community and kind of
Mm.
quality to it, and the hustle culture was gone. It's so beautiful. It's such a little hub. In
Yeah.
terms of where we're in Clifton, which is just such a lovely place. You have
Mm.
gorgeous houses. It's lovely.
Commons and parks.
Parks,
The
exactly.
commons. Heath.
The Downs.
The Downs. The Downs.
Oh,
Yeah, they beside. Yeah, yeah. Of course they are. That's Bath and
exactly.
yeah, Bristol and the moors and all of that. Beautiful.
And you just, because in your second year you're touring on a
Mm.
minivan 3 hours to somewhere in the West
Mm.
Country, you're seeing the whole of it, and it is quite beautiful. You wouldn't be able to do that in London. You'd just be going
Mm.
to theatre or whatever it is. So
Mm. Excellent. So to be recommended, you think?
I think so. I think the
Good.
school obviously has things that it needs to work on in terms of its diversity and its progression, but they're so willing to look at it and to be
Mm.
held accountable. They don't have as much money as London schools, I would say.
Mm.
So in terms of its, like, kind of, I wouldn't say opportunities, but just it doesn't have as many teachers as would like, especially of like diversity in the teaching staff. It's quite poor, in my opinion, but they're working on it. They're well able to say it's bad, but I would love to see some change there, because obviously they're starting to roll in such diverse people. They need to have
Mm.
that in their.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. Well, that's wonderful. That's very useful. All of the stuff that you've said. It's really, really gives a really strong, I think, impression and color of Bristol and the old Vic and what you learn and what it's like being there. All of those notes are hit very, very well. I think I think anyone watching this, and if they hadn't seen anything else, which they won't have so far, they'll all want to go to Bristol, I think, after hearing what you said.
It's lovely, and I'm not going to lie, us all being, if you're Irish, that's a huge, thing that you have. So go in there and, like, proper use it, because they love the Irish. We're so up and coming. There's a lot of us about at the moment. just
Yeah.
like, we're supposed to be there. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
We're
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.